Priscilla the Pimply Penguin Psychiatrist, The Waddling Worries Clinic Chapter 1, The Penguin with a Purpose in the Icy Kingdom of Glacierville, where the snowflakes fell like tiny stars and the air was always crisp, there lived a penguin like no other. Her name was Priscilla, and she was a psychiatrist. Yes, you heard that right. While other penguins were sliding on ice or fishing for krill, Priscilla had her very own clinic. It was called the Waddling Worries Clinic, and her job was to help animals with all sorts of problems. But there was one thing that made Priscilla stand out even more, her pimples. Now, these weren't just tiny little bumps, no, they were the kind of pimples that seemed to pop up at the most awkward times, right before a big event or when a patient needed her the most. But Priscilla never let that stop her. She wore her pimples proudly because they made her unique, and that's what she always told her patients. You see, Priscilla knew that everyone, no matter how big or small, had something that made them feel different, something they worried about. But those differences didn't make them any less special. In fact, it's what made them more special. Chapter 2, The Anxious Albatross. One frosty afternoon, Priscilla was sipping on her favorite seaweed tea when a frantic knock came at the door. In waddled Archie the albatross, flapping his wings nervously and pacing back and forth. "Oh, Dr. Priscilla, you've got to help me," Archie squawked. Priscilla gently guided him to a cozy chair made of soft snow. "Take a deep breath, Archie. Now, what seems to be the problem?" Archie's feathers were all ruffled as he explained, "I've been invited to the big sky soar-off next week. But every time I think about it, my wings start shaking, my stomach gets queasy, and I just know I'm going to mess up in front of everyone." Priscilla nodded thoughtfully. "Ah, it sounds like you're feeling anxious, Archie. It's completely normal to feel nervous about something important. But remember, just because you're nervous doesn't mean you can't do well. But what if I fall? What if I crash into a cloud and everyone laughs?" Archie asked, covering his eyes with his wings. Priscilla smiled. "Archie, let me tell you a secret. Everyone, even the best flyers in the world, has felt exactly what you're feeling right now. The key is to practice, breathe, and remind yourself that even if you stumble, it doesn't mean you're a failure. It means you're learning." She pulled out a little notebook from her shelf and handed it to Archie. "Here, every time you feel worried, write down your thoughts. Then, write a positive thought right next to it. For example, what if I fall? Becomes even if I fall, I can get back up and try again." Archie blinked his wide eyes, then nodded. "I'll give it a try, Dr. Priscilla. Thank you." Chapter 3, The Sneezy Seal. Just as Archie flapped out of the clinic, in slid a sniffly seal named Sylvia. Sylvia sneezed so hard that she sent snow flying everywhere. "Oh dear," Priscilla said, offering her a tissue. "What seems to be troubling you, Sylvia?" I have to go to my friend's party tomorrow," Sylvia said between sneezes. "But, achoo, I'm so worried everyone will make fun of me for sneezing so much." Priscilla nodded. "It sounds like you're embarrassed about your sneezing, Sylvia. But sneezing is just something your body does. It's nothing to be ashamed of. And true friends won't make fun of you, they'll offer you tissues." Sylvia sighed. "But what if they don't? What if I sneeze so much that I ruin the party?" Priscilla tapped her beak thoughtfully. Well, sneezing can be a little disruptive, but there's something we can do about it. Let's come up with a plan. You can bring your own box of tissues, sit near the door in case you need to step outside, and tell your friends ahead of time. That way, no one will be surprised, and you won't have to worry as much." Sylvia's eyes brightened. "You think that'll work?" "I know it will," Priscilla said with a wink. "And remember, you're going to the party to have fun, not to worry about sneezes. Just like my pimples, your sneezes are part of who you are, and they don't make you any less wonderful." Chapter 4, The Gloomy Walrus. Later that week, Wally the walrus showed up at the clinic, looking gloomier than a rainy day on the glacier. "Hey, Wally," Priscilla greeted him with a warm smile. "What's got you feeling down?" Wally sighed, his big tusks drooping. "It's just, I feel like I'm not good at anything. I'm too clumsy to slide on the ice like the other walruses, and I'm too slow to swim fast like my friends. I just feel useless. Priscilla shook her head. Wally, that's not true at all. You are one of the most thoughtful walruses I know. Remember when you helped that little penguin who was lost last week? You stayed with him until his mom found him. That was amazing. Wally shrugged. I guess, but I'm still not as talented as the others. Priscilla waddled over to a big poster on her wall that read, "Everyone has their own superpower." She pointed to it. Wally, everyone's good at something, and sometimes, it's something small that others might not notice. But that doesn't make it any less important. Your kindness and patience are your superpowers. Wally looked up, his eyes twinkling just a little. You really think so? Oh. I know so, Priscilla said firmly. And I bet if you keep being yourself, you'll find new ways to use those superpowers to help others. Chapter 5, Priscilla's Own Worries. One evening, after a long day of helping her friends, Priscilla sat down to relax. But as she looked in the mirror, she saw that another pimple had popped up, right in the middle of her forehead. Oh no, she sighed, feeling a little embarrassed. I have a big speech to give tomorrow at the Penguin Psychiatrist conference, and now I look ridiculous. For a moment, Priscilla felt the same worries that her patients often had. She was nervous. What if everyone stared at her pimples instead of listening to her speech? What if they thought she wasn't a good psychiatrist because she didn't look perfect? But then she remembered something important: her pimples were part of what made her special. Just like Archie's nervousness, Sylvia's sneezing, and Wally's clumsiness, her pimples didn't define who she was. They were just a tiny part of the bigger picture, just like everyone's little worries. So, the next morning, Priscilla stood proudly at the conference, pimples and all. And you know what? Everyone listened to her speech and cheered for her afterward, not because of how she looked, but because of the way she helped them all feel better about their own worries. And from that day on, Priscilla never felt embarrassed about her pimples again. She knew that no matter what, she would always be the best psychiatrist in Glacierville. To be continued. In the next adventure, Priscilla meets a puffin with a fear of heights, and together they tackle new challenges in the Waddling Worries Clinic. Stay tuned for more heartwarming and funny stories from Priscilla the Pimply Penguin Psychiatrist.